The world you see is nothing more than a reflection of your own consciousness. Every person, every encounter is a mirror revealing the depths of your inner world. When you find yourself explaining, justifying, or defending your vision to those who resist it, understand this. What you are truly facing is not them, but the shadows of your own doubts projected outward. The so-called demons in people are not external forces, but the limitations of belief, the echoes of fear, and the remnants of an old self that no longer serves you. The world you experience is not separate from you, but an outpicturing of your own consciousness. Every person who enters your life, every conversation, every encounter, these are merely reflections of the state you occupy within. The praise or the criticism, the encouragement or the resistance, the love or the hostility received from others, all originate within you first. This is the great secret. There is no external reality independent of your assumptions, your beliefs, and your inner speech. When you find yourself explaining your dreams to those who cannot see, justifying your desires to those who ridicule them, or defending your vision to those who doubt, stop for a moment. Ask yourself, why do I need to explain? The need to explain is born from uncertainty, from a lingering belief that others must approve before your vision can manifest. But no external force grants you permission to be what you desire. You alone are the cause. The moment you accept this, you cease to seek validation from those who dwell in a lesser understanding. People appear in your life to play the roles your consciousness assigns to them. If you persist in the assumption that you must convince others, you will find yourself surrounded by skeptics and doubters. If you believe that people will oppose you, resist you, or fail to understand you, then they must do so, not by their own volition, but because the script has been written in the depths of your own mind. There is no injustice in this, only the perfect law in action. They are neither your enemies nor your allies. They are simply the reflections of the states you have entertained. To argue with them, to explain yourself, is to wrestle with shadows. The person who refuses to believe in your vision is not the enemy. Your belief that their doubt has power is the true obstacle. If you could remove the belief that their words or opinions have any effect on your destiny, you would instantly be free. No longer would you feel the need to debate, convince, or justify. You would simply know. And that knowing would be the force that reshapes your world. What you accept as true inwardly will harden into fact outwardly. It does not matter who approves or disapproves. The world has no choice but to yield to your assumption. When you persist in the conviction that your desire is already fulfilled, the outer world must conform, and even those who once oppose you will either change or disappear from your reality altogether. But you cannot reach this state of conviction while still seeking permission from those who cannot see beyond their own limitations. You must rise above. If you were to plant a seed, would you explain to the soil why it must grow? Would you justify to the sun why it must shine? No, you would simply trust the process. So it is with the desires you hold within. They need no explanation, no justification, only your unwavering belief. The world is not here to validate your vision. The world is here to conform to it. And when you grasp this truth, you will cease to explain yourself, for you will know that the only explanation needed is the one given in silence to yourself in the stillness of your own being, where the assumption is made and the world reshapes accordingly. When you engage in explaining, justifying, or defending yourself, you are engaging with an illusion. You are battling something that has no real power except the power you assign to it. The so-called demons in people are nothing more than the conditioned beliefs they hold, the limitations they have accepted, and the unconscious programming that governs their actions. They do not see through the eyes of imagination. They see only through the lens of what has been, not what can be. But here's the truth. These limitations are not outside of you. The resistance you face is not truly in them. It is in your own consciousness. The moment you feel the need to defend yourself, to explain why you believe what you believe, you are already conceding power to the illusion. You are acknowledging the doubt within yourself, for if you were truly certain, if you truly knew your vision was real, you would not feel the need to convince anyone of it. What you see in others is simply a projection of what you have not yet resolved within yourself. If they oppose you, if they challenge you, if they belittle your dreams, it is because you still hold within you some measure of belief in their words. And so they must act their part, mirroring the uncertainty you have not yet dissolved. But do not wrestle with shadows. Do not try to fight them into submission, for they have no power except the power your attention grants them. The moment you turn away from their opinions and fix your gaze upon your vision, their influence begins to fade. They do not need to agree with you. They do not need to see what you see. They only need to play their role in the great unfolding of your own assumption. And when you persist in that assumption, their role must change or they must disappear from your reality altogether. The world operates by law. If you persist in assuming that others will not understand you, then they cannot. If you believe that people will resist your dreams, they will. But if you shift your assumption, if you move into the state where your desire is already fulfilled, then the entire world must shift with you. Those who once doubted may suddenly support you. Those who resisted may be removed from your experience. And all of this happens without force, without struggle, only by the silent, unseen movement of consciousness. You do not need to argue with anyone. You do not need to lower yourself to justify your vision to those who cannot yet see. To do so is to remain entangled with the old state, to keep yourself bound to the reality you wish to leave behind. Instead, rise above. Move in silence, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let the world conform. If you were planting a garden, would you shout at the soil, demanding that it accept the seed? Would you argue with the rain, trying to convince it to nourish your plants? No. You would simply trust the process, knowing that nature moves according to law. So too does consciousness. Your only work is to plant the seed within yourself, to nurture it with belief, and to know beyond all doubt that it must come to pass. The moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop seeking validation, you reclaim your power. You step into the awareness that the only opinion that matters is the one you hold within yourself. And when that opinion is unwavering, when you know beyond all doubt that your desire is real, the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you. Stop explaining, stop justifying, simply be, and the world will bow to your assumption. The world, you see, is fleeting, shifting, ever-changing. It is not solid, nor is it fixed. It is but a reflection of the unseen, molded and shaped by the state you occupy within. To give your attention to appearances, to concern yourself with the judgments of others, is to anchor yourself in a reality that is already dissolving. The only thing that endures is that which is held in consciousness, for consciousness is the one and only reality. If you would create a new life, a new experience, a new version of yourself, you must learn to turn away from the evidence of the senses and remain faithful to the unseen. There will always be those who doubt, who question, who resist. They cannot see what you see because they have not assumed the state that you have. Do not let their blindness shake your certainty. If you allow yourself to be swayed by their words, if you seek their approval before believing in your own vision, you have already given your power away. The world does not give you permission to change. You give the world instruction on how to mold itself around you, and it obeys, always and without fail. The one who remains faithful to the unseen knows that appearances are deceptive. What you see today is nothing more than the outpicturing of a past assumption. The person who doubts you, the one who questions your vision, is only there because at some level you have accepted their role in your play. But you are the operant power. You can rewrite the script at any moment. Instead of explaining yourself to them, instead of trying to win them over with words, simply persist in your assumption. Know that your desire is already fulfilled, that the unseen is more real than the seen, and watch as the world bends to your inner conviction. Most people live by their senses. They believe in what they can touch, see, and hear. They trust only what is already made manifest, never realizing that what they perceive is only the after effect of thought. But you must live differently. You must trust the unseen more than the seen. You must hold to the reality of your inner vision, even when everything around you seems to contradict it. If you waver, if you doubt, if you begin to explain yourself to those who do not understand, you delay your manifestation, for you are placing more faith in their perception than in your own assumption. The world does not move by effort. It moves by belief. It moves by the still and silent knowing that what is held within must be expressed without. You do not need to convince anyone, nor do you need their validation. What is real within you will become real outside of you, and nothing can prevent it except your own wavering faith. The moment you let go of the need to explain, the moment you stop defending your dream and simply accept it as already done, the process is set in motion and the world begins to shift. Those who once doubted may suddenly support you. Those who resisted may disappear from your life altogether. Events will move in ways you could not have foreseen, and the path will unfold effortlessly before you. But none of this happens by force. It happens by faith. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just when it is easy, not just when others agree with you, but especially when they do not. That is the test. That is the moment of true power. Stop explaining, stop justifying, be still and know that your assumption is the only reality. If you remain faithful to the unseen, the seen must transform to match it. This is the law, this is the truth. Hold fast to it, and the world will conform in ways beyond your wildest imagination. You are not merely flesh and blood, bound by circumstances or limited by the opinions of others. You are the operant power, the creator of your reality, the master of your fate. What you assume yourself to be, you become. What you persist in believing, the world must reflect. The problem is never the people around you, nor their doubts, nor their limitations. The only challenge is your own willingness to accept their version of reality over the one you have chosen to create. When you lower yourself to explain, to justify, to seek approval, you are forgetting who you truly are. You are acting as though you need permission to exist in the state you desire. But who is there to grant you permission if not yourself? Who has the authority to tell you what you can or cannot be? No one outside of you has any power over your destiny unless you concede it to them. The only power they hold is the power you imagine them to have. The moment you see yourself as inferior, as needing their understanding, you place yourself beneath them. But when you assume the higher identity, when you step fully into the awareness that you alone dictate the terms of your reality, their opinions become meaningless. To explain yourself is to acknowledge that you still seek validation. It is an admission that part of you believes their approval is necessary for your desire to manifest. But the moment you truly assume a state, there is no need to explain, for it has already been accepted as reality. Do you explain why the sky is blue? Do you justify why the sun rises? No, because these things simply are. They require no validation, no debate. In the same way, when you fully assume your desire is already fulfilled, you cease all effort to convince others. You move in silence, knowing that the world must conform. You must ask yourself, am I more committed to my assumption or to proving it to others? If you are truly living from the end, if you have already become what you seek, then what need is there to explain? A king does not explain why he sits on the throne. A creator does not justify his creation. He simply speaks it into existence and knows that it is done. The reason people seek explanations from you is because they are blind to the unseen. They cannot grasp what you see, for they have not assumed the state you dwell in. They speak only from their own limitations, from their own conditioned beliefs. And if you lower yourself to argue, you are merely reinforcing their reality instead of commanding your own. But the moment you withdraw your attention, the moment you stop feeding their doubts with explanations, their influence begins to fade. This is not arrogance, it is certainty. There is a vast difference between stubborn pride and divine knowing. The former argues, debates, and fights for recognition. The latter stands unmoved, untouched by the noise of the world, secure in the understanding that assumption creates reality. You do not need to convince. You do not need to justify. You need only to persist. And as you persist, the world must yield. Stop waiting for their approval. Stop explaining why you believe what you believe. Simply embody the state, live as though it is already true, and let the world adjust accordingly. Some will follow, some will resist, and some will fade away. But none of that is your concern. Your only task is to assume, to persist, and to remain faithful to the vision within you. When you do this, the world has no choice but to reshape itself in perfect accordance with your assumption. Not everyone is meant to walk the path with you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will resist you. Some will argue, mock, or question your vision, not because they are against you, but because they are bound by their own limitations. They can only see what they have been conditioned to see. They cannot grasp what you know to be real, for they have not yet assumed the state you now occupy. But you must understand this. You do not need them to. Their understanding is not required for your vision to manifest. The only requirement is your unwavering assumption. When you rise in consciousness, when you begin to embody a new state of being, those who still dwell in the old state may resist. They may challenge you, try to pull you back, try to make you explain yourself. But do not be deceived. This is simply the old reality attempting to assert itself one last time. If you entertain their doubts, if you engage in arguments, if you seek to justify your transformation, you are giving energy to that which must pass away. You are breathing life into a reality that no longer serves you. You must learn to walk away, not in anger, not in resentment, but in absolute certainty that you have moved beyond their understanding. You must allow them to remain as they are while you ascend to where they cannot follow. The truth is, they will either rise with you in time or they will fade from your world entirely. There is no need to force them, no need to explain, only the need to persist in your assumption. When you stop explaining, when you stop seeking validation, you reclaim your power. You step into the awareness that the only opinion that matters is the one you hold within yourself. And when that opinion is unwavering, when you know beyond all doubt that your desire is real, the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you. You must be willing to let go of those who cannot see. If they are meant to remain in your life, they will transform. If they are not, they will naturally drift away, making room for those who align with the new reality you have assumed. This is not loss. This is expansion. Every time you step into a new version of yourself, you must release the old. And often, that means releasing those who belong to that old version. There is no need to fight, no need to convince, only the need to stand firm in the knowing that all things will rearrange themselves to reflect your assumption. The moment you let go of the need to explain, the moment you stop defending your dream and simply accept it as already done, the process is set in motion and the world begins to shift. Some will doubt, some will oppose, some will resist, but none of it matters. The law is indifferent to their opinions. The only thing that matters is what you accept as true. If you remain faithful to your vision, if you persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even the strongest opposition will crumble before you. Those who doubted may suddenly support you. Those who ridiculed may disappear. Events will move in ways you could not have foreseen, and the path will unfold effortlessly before you. But none of this happens by force. It happens by faith. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just when it is easy, not just when others agree with you, but especially when they do not. That is the test. That is the moment of true power. To stand firm in your assumption when all evidence suggests otherwise. So stop explaining, stop justifying, be still and know that your assumption is the only reality. If you remain faithful to the unseen, the seen must transform to match it. This is the law. This is the truth. Hold fast to it and the world will conform in ways beyond your wildest imagination.